Hi friends, and welcome to the channel. My name is Ryan Abair, and this is a little corner of the internet where I share my insights in life, and I hope that you have found them helpful and beneficial to your own life. And today I'm talking about being bored to tears. And this metaphor of being bored to tears is very important because it's also the same kind of idea as being scared to death. It's taking an emotion and breaking through to the other side of it, where you're going to find your greatest treasure, just beyond what seems like an intolerable level of fear, an intolerable level of loneliness, or an intolerable level of boredom. You will find the conducivity to the creative mind. So, you create this sense of boredom and you break through it. But you have to understand it first. Boredom is a fear, right? It's a fear of not having anything to do. It's a basic sensation of being distrustful, that if you have idle time, you'll be in the devil's workshop. Well, that's the very thing you have to do, is to go into the devil's workshop to see how the creative mind works. You got to be bored to tears. You got to allow yourself to feel that feeling of having nothing to do, completely empty, destitute, unstimulated. And you might even feel that panic, but first of all, you're going to realize that boredom is not harmful. It's like being scared to death. You must realize that death isn't harmful before you realize what fear is. Fear is masquerading as a limit that you're supposed to overcome. And if you could overcome boredom, you'll realize that it is the setup, it is the cover or the concealment which allows for you to do amazing things with your creative mind. It allows you to reverse being tortured by the mind and to use it to do amazing things. And you've heard about people do this. They lose their job and they're just so bored. They tinker around with something and they invent a multi-billion-dollar product. You see, sometimes life will throw you into these situations where you think, I'm going to be so bored. But that is an opportunity to sit with the boredom, cry your tears, and get through it to the other side. That's the promised land. The problem is, we think boredom is a barrier, and we stop right before, and we get on our phones and stimulate ourselves. Rather than allowing ourselves to go through being bored to tears, then go ahead and cry, and you'll realize that boredom, on the so-called other side of boredom, which is a duality, is the breakthrough to the creative mind. Let yourself get bored. Sit with that anxiety until it dies, being scared to death. Let the anxiety die and watch it open a new dimension in your thinking, where even at the very least you realize that the present moment is not so dull. Sitting and doing nothing is not going to kill you. It's not so bad. It's not the end of the world if you don't have something to do. And then a thought will come, or an impulse or desire, and you'll be excited about having crossed over into the land of milk and honey. The line where most people start crying, I'm so bored. Wah, wah. Well, those of us who have cried long enough have cried ourselves into a creative enterprise. Most people who are scared to death freeze at the grave, and they don't go into the grave. They don't go into the devil's workshop. They don't go into the darkness to realize that the darkness is a setup, not to hold you back, but to propel you forward into a new dimension of understanding. So boredom is just a little hurdle. Yeah, it's scary to be with your own thoughts, I know, but it's not going to kill you. And even if it did, death is awesome. It's a complete relief. You can get scared to death and actually pass death and get into eternal life, so that you realize that what formerly scared you was actually setting you up for great success. It's conducive to success rather than preventative. So boredom is one of those emotions that is a signal to sit with it for a while until it transmutes into a conducive place of creativity. I think a lot of people are afraid to retire because they think that their mind's going to quit working. That they're not going to be able to produce interesting things for themselves to do, rather than being stimulated from the outer world or their job, which is constantly giving them things to do. Why don't you sit with yourself for a while, get bored, and then see if then your inner voice will give you assignments to do, interesting things to do. You'll be drawn to meditation and silence, and you'll feel like you're waiting, but you're not. You're preparing this space for these wonderful creative things to come from you. Boredom is a sign that you're just shy of opening up a conducive space for learning, creativity, independence, spiritual understanding, wisdom. But you are scared to death. You stop just before you go into the tomb and have a look around. And there you'll discover a womb on the other side, and a womb will open up more conducivity. So every obstacle is just another gateway into a new possibility. The darkness is a setup for a new layer of understanding, a new layer of creativity. So if you're bored to tears, you can see through the tears once they dry up. But most of us are bored to tears, and we take that fear and we run to the computer and get on the internet. We run to the alcohol cabinet, we take a sip of vodka, or we run to social media and scroll mindlessly. We get to the verge of being bored to tears, and we don't keep going until we see what's on the other side of that veil of tears. We're scared to death, but we don't want to go and see who is inside the coffin. You. Your greatest treasure was on the other side of that tear, that veil of tears, which you can see through. Boredom is a transparent emotion. It's a duality which is affixed to creativity. But boredom dissolves, and out of it, something new arises, the creative mind. What a wonderful thing. Let yourself get bored. Sit with the boredom until it dissipates, and watch what will happen. You'll see through those tears, and those will become tears of joy. My name is Ryan Hebert. I hope you enjoyed these insights today. Please check out my blog, mymorningmotivator.com. I do appreciate your time, and we'll see you next time.